Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the show. And as you can tell, we are joined by a very special guest indeed. We are joined today by Tuesday Night, who all of you may know best as Kirsten from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. Tuesday, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show. I always get a lot of requests to get a lot more guests from a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So
Mhm.
it's so awesome to be able to get a chance to speak to you about one of the biggest A Nightmare on Elm Street movies I think there ever was.
Yeah, it's actually true. That one actually made like more money and was like the most popular, which is great. I love coughing on my interview. I don't know why. I have allergies, so it may happen.
Oh, bless. No, listen, it's no problem at all. If you need to take a break, it's fine.
Okay,
Um, so obviously we have to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street.
of
Um,
course.
But before that, if it's okay with you, I would really like to get to know more about you and your early start in acting. So I'm really interested, how did you first start in acting?
Well, I actually was doing music first, and I got a deal with CBS Records, and I also worked with Warner Brothers, and I wasn't really happy with the producer they finally put me with. They did start off with loving my band, and they signed me for that sound. But they have a habit of taking you and then turning you into something else. So I really didn't like that. So I got the audition for Nightmare on Elm Street, and I went, and it was pretty cool because I actually Rennie Harlan, he cast me first, and I think it was on the second audition he just cast me, and he had me read with all the people that were up for the other parts to see like how they worked with me, or how we would get along. And so I actually had a hand in the casting, which was really really fun. And let's see, that was really my start. I had done Fame before that, and General Hospital, but it was still kind of music driven. I was still kind of in the music. Then I after this movie, it's like I found my love, my purpose. I found out that I love doing music, and I still do it for a lot of projects, but my love is acting.
Have you ever done any stage or theatre work before?
Uh, I did. Let's see. I did a play with Meg Tilly and Colin Firth, and that was really the only one I did. And it was pretty. I was pretty nervous, and it was very funny for me to hear people reacting to what I
Hmm.
said. I'm not used to that when you're filming. So it was that was interesting. That was kind of neat. But for some reason, I just feel more comfortable and more. It's like more intimate with the camera. I wanted to tell you too. I don't know if you know who my dad is, but did you do
Um,
any search on him?
no, to be honest, I haven't. No.
No. Well, my dad was a really famous composer. Uh, Elvis Presley did one of his songs called "The Wonder of You." Paul McCartney did one called "Lonesome Town." There's he. Everybody in the world has done one of my dad's songs, and the way I really got into music was because I was so into like what my dad was doing, and that I was always around that, and I just thought my dad was the most talented thing in the whole world, which he was. I mean, he won best song of the year. So he's got a lot of awards. He never really knew how good he was. He was one of those people that were really humbled, and like almost to the point where, you know, finally when Paul McCartney did it, because I'm a freaking fan of the Beatles so insanely, that finally I was like, Dad, are you nuts? It's Paul McCartney. It's a freaking Beatle. And then he also Bob Dylan wrote my dad. He does Lonesome Town in his live show with Tom Petty, and he was and Bob Dylan wrote my dad a note saying, "Do you have any other songs I could maybe do?" I'm like, "Dad, okay." And so that's how it kind of went. It was music, And then when Nightmare came up, it was really acting, and then kind of music was kind of, it was there too. But I think I do 100% in whatever one I'm doing. But it's just the acting is more of my favorite. That's all.
You know, it's awesome that you kind of have it's sometimes it's really refreshing and amazing for not just sort of to hear, but I think for a lot of people to experience to have two deep rooted passions. And they don't always
Hmm.
have I mean, they can correlate, but I think some people always saying it has to be one or the other. Well, I never understood why it can't be both. But that's
Yeah.
awesome though. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's really funny because when I first started acting, I was known as a singer. So every time I would go in for a job, it would be like, "Oh yeah, you're Tuesday night the singer." And I'm like, "Well, I'm also the actress." It was hard to kind of break that through.
Yeah.
But I did, thank goodness. And looking like Madonna, that was a hard thing too. It was always like, you look like Madonna, you look like Madonna. And then Madonna saw me in a movie I did called Mistress. Actually, she didn't see me. Her team did or whatever.
Okay.
And she wanted me to play her. And when she was going to do her, like her biography, her autobiography,
Hmm.
whatever. But then she didn't do it because she thought she was too young to do it. And she was pretty young. So it kind of didn't, it fizzled out, but it was funny.
So actually, that's incredible about your sort of your dad and having someone who evidently followed his passion in what he pursued. How was that for you, sort of growing up then, um, having sort of a parent that followed their passion and kind of that did that instill in you to follow your dreams and passions when you were sort of younger?
Oh yeah, I'm sure it did. Yeah, because oh yeah, and my dad was real supportive. It was really funny. I remember like when I was maybe 11, my dad bought me my first microphone and an amp to sing through. So I would go over to my dad's because my mom and dad were divorced, and I would go over to my dad's and like make him sit through. He would sit through and drink his tea and literally watch me sing to records for like 2 hours. And it was just so sweet of him. And I always said I want to do your demos, because Kim Carnes did a lot of his demos. And I was like, I can do it. And he's like, I think you're like, you're really good, but I think you're gonna have to be a little older because your voice will probably change. And I was like, okay. So I mean, I don't think I demoed anything for him until like, wow, like maybe 15 years ago. I finally I finally worked with my dad, and I'll tell you something. It was really difficult to work with my dad. He is such a perfectionist
Yeah.
that it was like, okay, I want you to go here on that note and up and down. And I'm like, wait a minute, don't you want any like original singing, of mine? It was funny, but they came out really good.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, somebody to be at the level that he's at, obviously there's always going to be an element of perfectionism, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's always like that.
Um, so sort of when you were sort of growing up, whether it was maybe even just before you got casted for a Nightmare on Elm Street, were you like a fan of horror or were you a fan of the franchise or sort of what were
Oh
your
yeah.
tastes in movies?
Yeah, definitely. When I was younger like that, I was just into horror movies all the way. And I still have like a whole collection of them. And now I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch that. It's a little scary. And yeah, definitely a fan of the franchise. I I had watched the other ones,
Mhm.
so it was a big thrill for me to be, getting that part. I freaked out. So it was, I was like, oh my God. I was all freaked out and happy. So yeah, definitely a fan of that. And still some, I think the 80s really had the best horror films. So those are kind of the ones I sort of tend to lean towards.
But do you know, I couldn't agree more with you that even now I'll always go back to any movie, any horror movie from the 80s. And there's still some even to this day that I haven't seen that I'm just mind blown that it sort of never blew up the way that I feel
Right.
like it deserved to be.
Have you seen Dead Silence?
I've heard about Dead Silence, but I don't think I've seen it.
You should see it. It's really good, and it's well written. I really liked it. I think that's the last one. The other ones that are out now, like Insidious and all that stuff, they're
Hmm.
just a little too. I don't like anything that kind of has sort of a possession thing.
Right.
The Exorcist scared the hell out of me totally, and I know Linda, and I've told her every time I'm with her, I'm like, "You scare the hell out of me still." It's like, she just never, and when we do conventions, she's got all of her pictures out of
Yeah.
her, like, possessed to the max. And so I'm like, oh, when I go over there, can't even look at them. I hate them. I had to sleep in my mom and dad's room for like 3 weeks.
Do you feel that horror movie? I think it's quite agreed upon generally that the 80s were the best time for horror. Do you
Yes, yes.
feel that in the 80s or even 90s, do you think it was as appreciated then as maybe they are now? Or do you feel they're more appreciated now than they were back then?
Now, definitely. Because they've seen the other crap that's come out. So they're like, wow, wait a
Yeah,
minute. That was really good. I
yeah.
think.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, there's maybe one in 10 or 15 maybe that I'll watch that I'm like, I could rewatch
Yeah.
for a second, third, fourth time. Whereas back in the 80s, I'm still rewatching them now after 5 or 6 times.
Oh yeah. I remember that that me and my boyfriend used to have like a certain like collection. Like every night we would just go over the same ones, pick one of those ones and just watch it, again and again and again. It was crazy.
So obviously I mean, I'm sure what everyone's sort of waiting for. We'll have to talk about An Armour on Elm Street Part 4.
Okay.
For me, I've always said, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, um, this is my favorite movie across the franchise. I
Oh.
love this movie. I mean, I have a fond memory, obviously, of number one as well. It's kickstarted everything, but number four is just. I'm not even sure what it is. It's just one that I can rewatch and I can still enjoy, and I still get immersed in the role in the movie. Um, so for you to be a part of that franchise, how does that kind of feel for you?
Well, I mean, I'm really grateful for it because it's definitely helped me in my life. Going to the conventions and everything has been really great. Um, back then, since it was my first film, it was, a learning experience.
Mhm.
Also, it was difficult at times because there were a lot of stunts and things that I had to do, and it was difficult, because we all had to kind of do our own thing. But I had fun. I mean, it was great working with them, and the cast I thought was great, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought I was kind of sick on that movie, because I was stupidly doing two jobs at one time. I was on General Hospital in the day and then filming Nightmare at night. So I got like a cold and I was like sick and I was dizzy. It was, I was kind of like suffering from exhaustion.
Mhm.
So I had to leave General Hospital, which I'm really sad about. I'm sad. Yeah.
No, I've actually interviewed people in the past that have been on General Hospital and similar shows, and hearing the stories of how demanding those shows can be, I can definitely understand how on earth you
Yeah.
manage to do both at the same time. That's that's just insane.
That's an actor for you. It's like,
Yeah,
oh my God, I got two jobs. I gotta do them, because it's, you don't know when your next job's coming, and it's sort of,
yeah.
you're either working constantly or you're not. It's difficult, you know. Have you interviewed Jeff Kober?
I haven't. No, I haven't. I'd love
He's
to though.
he's he's awesome. I'm doing a new movie. It's called Dagger Dust, which I'm producing, and the director is Aaron Mento, and it's got a great 80s cast in it. It's a really, really like far out there script, and very catchy. I mean, it's got magical powers and goblins, and it's just really interesting. And So Jeff Kober is going to do a part in it, and I just wondered because he's on General Hospital too. So I just wondered if you had
Oh,
had
I
interviewed
tell
him.
you what, I would love to interview him though. That's someone that I'd love to get to chat to. I'd be really
Oh,
interested.
he's so great. Oh my God. He's so different because he
Yeah.
plays like, all these like bad guys, and he's like the most spiritual, sweet guy ever. So,
That's awesome. Um, so I mean, you said briefly that you sort of had a hand in casting some of the actors for the role.
mhm.
Um, being so sort of new into that environment, like how did that feel for you? How did you kind of cope with that kind of process? Did you enjoy it? Was it a bit daunting? How did it feel?
No, it was great. It was great to actually get to read with all these people you know, um, actually have a say in it. It was really, interesting. Like, Rennie was like, who do you think is best for this or that, and I kind of chose, and sometimes it wasn't who got it, and most of the time it was. Um, but I think it was really neat doing that. I liked it. I also did that on a show I did called 2000 Malibu Road with Drew Barrymore. I did that too. I sat on the casting. Joel Schumacher let me sit in the back and watch, and it was amazing. I mean, you could just tell when somebody walked in, you know, if it was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you could tell when you were like, "Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed for them." You know, but it was great. I really learned a lot.
Yeah, I guess I think that you said that's definitely an incredible learning opportunity, and you can kind
Yeah,
of immediately just from first perceptions kind of gauge what they're sort of looking for and what they're not.
right. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't imagine that'd be super daunting for me. I'd feel too bad, like potentially giving somebody bad news. I wouldn't like to, so I couldn't do
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't have to. So,
it.
so it was really good. I didn't have to do
Yeah.
that. And like I said, mostly, almost everybody was the people that I chose. The
Hmm.
only one I was confused on was Lisa Wilcox, only because she was Andros Jones', sister. And
Hmm.
there was another Lisa that came in. Her name was Lisa Albert, and she looked like Andros. They looked so much alike, and she was really good. But there was something after I thought about it, and talked with Rennie. We kind of, we went in Lisa's direction. They just, wanted to change her hair color and things like that to make her more, plain, because she's actually really, really pretty girl. So, uh, yeah, that's the only one that was like just kind of only because, the look, the character was so, you know, perfect. But as it worked out, it was great.
Yeah, no, I've actually had the pleasure of I interviewed Lisa in the past, and I remember speaking to her about that. I asked her about how she kind of got the role, and I remember she told me that she was kind of initially told, probably not for you. We're going to put you on sort of in like kind of like a reserve folder almost,
Yeah,
and then she
yeah.
kind of
Uh-huh.
out of nowhere she just kind of got told, right, you're
Yep.
casted for the role, and I was just like that kind of getting that kind of news all of a sudden must be one of the most surreal moments of your life.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I mean, because they don't know what they want, you
Yeah.
know, and until they see it, I think. And then when you come in, if you're the one, you're the one. And there's no strategy, no plan, no game, no way to get in there. It's pretty much luck, or and talent. But I think sometimes it's not about talent. Sometimes I think it can be pure luck. Right place, right time, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of put that towards a lot of things in life, though. I mean, there's very, very rarely does people, hard work always does pay off. But I mean, like you said, you have to put yourself in that position at that time in order to kind of get a role. So there's always going to be an
Yeah.
element to that, I think.
Yeah. And it's, I think that when people ask me, what to do to get into acting, I'm like, run. No. Because it's hard. I mean, it's, a
Mhm.
lot of rejection. You audition for 20 things, you get nothing. You audition for 10 and you get three. So it's just no planning, unless
Yeah.
you're on a series. That's really the best thing. I mean, because it's great. You're on it. You're going to get them paid. You're okay. You know what I mean? And it's you can pay your bills. That's the best, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so do you remember sort of the early days of filming and what that was kind of like with the cast and maybe for yourself? I know you said you were kind of working two jobs at the time, but you kind of
Yeah.
remember how that was sort of the early days. Was there a lot of sort of pressure, excitement? Did the cast gel well together?
Oh yeah, yeah. The cast was great together. We didn't have any problems, and also the script kept changing through the filming because Rennie was like working on it and doing different things, and he's so great. I mean, he made that into and he's also the one who gave me a chance to have my song as the title song, which
Yes.
is pretty amazing. Um, it was great. I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about it. Uh, of course, the documentary that they did on it, I didn't like very much because it really hurt my feelings because it was everyone pretty much talking that how I was the diva and every day was Tuesday and Rennie and Tuesday were having an affair and just all these weird things. And I finally just broke out and told the cast, I said, you guys really hurt my feelings and I wasn't doing that. I was new and I couldn't help it if Rennie liked me. You know what I mean? What am I going to do? What would you do? What would those
Yeah.
cast members do? They would eat it up. I didn't because I didn't really even know I didn't I was involved with someone else. I didn't really even think about that.
Mhm. No, but it's good for you though. I guess good for yourself as well that you had the opportunity to tell them sort of how you felt. Because I think
Yeah,
so often you hear that people are too afraid to tell other people of what they feel, whether it's good or bad, because they're kind of worried about a reaction or even like a
yeah,
public reaction or whatever. So I think that's good for
yeah.
you actually to have that opportunity to tell them.
Yeah, it shocked a lot of them, and a lot of them denied it and said that it was edited that way.
Right.
Weird. And that I believe too, because the director at the time, the producer told me that he was looking for that kind of stuff. So I
Uh,
became like the victim of that one.
mhm.
So, and also I had cancer, so I didn't look like
Oh,
myself at all, and I was very swollen, and I had dark hair from a character I played, and it was I don't know. It was not a good experience for me.
yeah. No, of course, I can
Yeah.
totally understand that.
Yeah.
Um, So going kind of involved with the cast, I have to ask about Robert Englund because Robert is one of like he's such an not just in horror, but he's such an icon as an actor. And he's such uh every time I speak to people that have worked with him, they always kind of talk about sort of how giving he is and how much of a great sort of co-star he is. What was
Oh,
your kind of experience with Robert?
it was the same. I thought the same thing. And the one thing I learned about him is he loves to talk. That's for sure. Tell stories. He's a great storyteller. He can tell you stories about the grout in your bathroom in the sink, or he can talk about Shakespeare. You know what I mean? He's very intelligent.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. He was great. I had fun with him all the time.
Yeah. And what
Yeah.
was it like sort of getting to work with him in I mean obviously Kristen's death scene was obviously I know sort of Alice's character kind of got it came in towards the end of
Hmm.
it, but sort of there was a very close moment between you and Robert on set. Sort of how was that kind of filming with him closely?
Fun, definitely. Because it was, I mean, I got to do a couple with him, which was, good. Like when he was dressed as the nurse, we were together. And, and on the beach, we were together.
The beach with
Yeah. So, I mean, I was comfortable with him. And, it was funny because you'd never be afraid of him. You know what I mean? So when he did the Freddy thing, everybody was like, "Well, did it scare you?" And because I'm an actor, I made it scare me. But it's kind of hard because he's sweet, and very nice. So it's kind of hard. It's like you think that makeup fools me? Nah, you know.
It must be hard though, especially if you watched the previous ones. Like I always think right now, if I was ever casted in something like a key movie, in, let's say A Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger, I just don't think my mind could allow me to not think of the movies. I don't think I could see Robert or see an actor. I think I would just think of the character.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously that's who he is. I mean, out of all the movies he's done, unfortunately, as good as he was, I mean, he is Freddy Krueger. Everybody knows Freddy Krueger. It's like saying, Al Pacino. Everybody
Right.
knows the name. And there's so much merchandise around of him.
Mhm.
And I just, even when he doesn't have makeup on, I see Freddie. So it's kind of, I bet part of him doesn't really love that.
Of
And
course.
I bet, a part of it really does. But I hear that he has some really cool stuff in his office, like all the Freddie stuff. His wife is like, no, no, we're not decorating the house in it. We're going to put it in your room or your
You,
office.
you can
Yeah.
only imagine the things he must have there. That'd be like one of the coolest things ever to see.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Mikey, my a good friend of mine who is an agent for conventions, and also he does documentaries. He just did the Robert Englund documentary. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Oh no.
You should definitely see it. Yeah. Um, we all got a chance to talk about him, or a few of us did, and I hear it's really, really doing good.
Right. That's on my one of my top list of things to watch now. I have to see that.
Yeah, you have to.
So for yourself, do you have any one particular fond moment that really sticks out in your head whilst being on set?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one. Uh, the lady who played my mom, Brooke Bundy. My mom and I had watched her on General Hospital for years and years and years. And when I found out that she was there, I just like rushed to her trailer. I was like, "Oh my God, we know you, Diana Taylor. We watched it." And she and I became really close right away, right away. And I think that my scenes with her were so uh fulfilling. I loved the scenes with Brooke. She really shines. And also, I mean, she's been in everything. She worked since she was 20 and she was gorgeous. I mean, she still is, but I mean, unbelievably beautiful. Like she's just in everything. I've been watching like old TV shows, which is what I like. And Brooke is like in every one of them. I'm like, I was surprised because you remember that show Night Gallery?
Yes.
Rod Serling thing. Um, she was even in that, and that was like my favorite show. And she popped up, and I'm like, oh my God, Mom, it's Brooke. You know,
I
Eh,
love the fact that you had like a fan moment there as well when you kind of got it on set. That's awesome.
totally. Oh yeah. She must have thought I was a complete nut when I first came in, but then we started talking, and she was really happy. And was very genuinely like touched that I liked her work and that I'd watched her.
Um, whilst you were playing Kristen,
Hmm.
obviously, did you take any inspiration from Patricia Arquette, or did you kind of decide to go your own entirely different route and just kind of focus on how you would play Kristen?
I did that. I went my own way. Because I mean, I love Patricia Arquette. She's awesome. But I think that in that movie, I think she played, you know, a victim. It was a lot
100%.
of, you know what I mean? When I played it, I felt more like I had an edge, and I got a little bit braver. You know, I played her differently, but I was really, really excited when I saw the commentary of it. Wes Craven was talking, and he said, you know, Tuesday night played Kristen the way I wrote her. She was a survivor, and I was like, oh my God. Because there's a lot of people who like her better and people who like me better, and it's really completely different performances.
Right. Again,
You know,
and I think you kind of nailed it. I think when you kind of look back to watch both performances, you kind of again with utmost respect, you kind of watch Patricia as you know that that character has like an end at some point, and I feel
Uh-huh.
like you played her as what a final girl would be in a horror movie, and
Oh, thank you.
which is, it really sucks that she died, to be honest,
I
because
know. I
she should have
know. But you know,
survived.
I got to come back though. And when I was in the
Yes, yeah.
bathroom. So that was with Rick. So that was good.
So for you, how did I mean, how when did you find out that Kristen was going to kind of die in the movie, and how did you kind of feel about that?
Well, you know, in a way I thought that she actually should survive. I thought that would be really, really cool and interesting because I don't know, it kind of surprised me. But then, you know, I tried to like prepare for that and kind of like do everything in the movie that would actually lead to that. So
Hmm.
uh you know what I mean? It was cool. I mean, you know, I'm in half the movie. That's okay. But of course, I would have, you know, liked to survive.
Yeah.
Lisa could have gone in the furnace. You know,
Yeah.
I love Lisa. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah. I mean, there was a part of me that was like, oh, I'm done. But you know, I was okay with it.
Yeah. Did you perform your own stunts during the movie?
Uh let's see, some of them. A
Hmm.
few I didn't. The one where I'm crawling on the ceiling,
Yeah.
remember that? I did. And I was bruised like all over my thighs and my legs because I had to keep going over those boards
Yeah.
that were on the ceiling. And that was kind of hard, but I did that one. Yeah. And you know, on the beach, I had trouble on the beach because they gave me goggles to go under the sand. But the minute that I hit the sand, they filled the goggles with
Ah,
sand. So it went right in my eyes. So
ah,
I said, you know what? I can't do that. That really,
mhm.
you know, hurt. So they got a double to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I was actually gonna ask you how that the sand scene, because obviously during the movie Freddy kind of pushes you down with his foot in through the sand, because I know you
Hmm.
you kind of break through into the home, but I was
Hmm.
gonna ask you how that was kind of done, because I don't see how that could have been sort of not CGI'd, but I don't see how that could have been done any other way other than somebody going in the sand.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just like, you know, I can't do it because it really
Yeah,
hurt, you know. And for some
yeah,
reason, she did it. It didn't bother her, and I would, you know, I was pretty grateful she was there, actually, you
for
know.
sure.
Yeah.
So when the movie came out, so when the movie
Hmm.
came released, and whether there was a red carpet or whether it was just a theater release, um, do you remember the kind of general atmosphere from the fans or the reaction from the fans when the movie first came out?
Well, I do only because the cast, we went to theaters and sat in the back
That's so
row
cool.
and actually watched everybody, and they were really digging it. They were like laughing at everything and like, you know, like being surprised by it and you know, scared, and it was pretty cool. We did that in Westwood and uh a couple different like maybe three or four theaters we did it.
Do you think that attendees of the theaters knew you guys were there?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We were kind of, you know, trying to disguise ourselves.
Yeah.
So, which I mean, anybody, if they just looked back in the row, they would like see all of our faces, you know. But we sat way in the back, so nobody would, you know, everybody else sat way in front. So there was some space.
I just love the idea that somebody watches this and at some point they're like, I thought I recognized them at the cinema that day. I love that idea that somebody could see that. That's awesome.
They might have. I don't know. Maybe, you
Yeah.
know, I think if they did though, they probably would have, you know, come up to us. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, some people get shy, right? I mean, I imagine some people like, I mean, at conventions, I mean, I know there's sometimes when you go to conventions and you're going there to meet an actor or a musician or whoever,
Hmm.
and even though you're going there for that purpose, you still kind of get a bit of a, oh, I don't know if I can go and speak to them.
Oh yeah. Oh, a lot of fans are like that, and you know, you try to like make them comfortable, and you're like, you know, trying to say it's okay. I'm just a person. It's it's very flattering and very grateful. But I always try to make them feel okay with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So speaking of conventions, how has been your general experience at a convention and meeting fans or meeting people that kind of fan of your work?
Um, I've always had I've always had a good time at them. Um, and it is interesting to get to meet fans, because it's like decades of fans. Like, you know, 12-year-olds have seen it, and then 25-year-olds, and then 35 and 45 and 55 and 65, they're all there. And it's just wild that that movie has just,
Mhm.
catapulted itself right up through every decade. We thought it was just like a little horror movie when we were doing it, so
Yeah.
we had no idea.
Yeah, and what I find funny with horror, and I don't really feel you get it with any other genre, is
Hmm.
that it's truly a movie that bonds families and friends. Like I got into horror movies because my mum is a fan of horror movies.
Ah.
And then so me and my mum are a fan. So again, if I go to a convention, she's like, "Oh, I know her, I know him, I know her." And then my younger brother then watched us, and then he became a fan. And it's strange and funny how you can go to these conventions and you can see somebody in their 70s and 80s, and you can see somebody that's like 10, 12 years old. They're all going there as a fan of horror. I don't really feel
Yeah,
like you
dressed
get that
dressed
with
like
anything
Freddy.
else.
I
Yeah,
mean, there was a baby with like little Freddy claws on, and they were like crocheted, really, really soft, so
yeah.
it wouldn't hurt the baby, but it was crazy. He had a hat on, he had a sweater. I mean, it was like, wow, you know.
Uh, Do you have
Cool.
any standout moments or moments you remember being at a convention?
Yeah, when Andrew McCarthy was there. No, I kind of went a little nuts. I love him. So I was, that was one. It's not often that I'm really, you know, struck by somebody
Mhm.
um, like that, because I have been fortunate enough to work with a lot of really big actors. So I'm kind of comfortable with that, but sometimes I am a little bit like, I'm a little excited, but I have to be like cool.
Do you have any conventions coming up or any that potentially are in the pipeline?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I am doing one this month in Indiana on the 17th through the 19th. It's called Horror Hound. I'm doing that one.
Mhm.
That's actually going to be, I think, the whole, like a lot of the cast of four. And I have another one in April next year, Monster Mania, which,
Yes.
and I just did one in Albuquerque. It's a new one. It was called the Morgan something show. I can't remember the second name, but it was a lot of fun. It was really fun, and it was really pretty big for a new show, so it was good.
Oh wow. We need to get you to come back to the UK. We need you to come to the
Oh, I
UK.
want to. Oh my gosh, I just did one thing there. And what was that called? Um, oh gosh, it's terrible. I can't remember it. It was like about 6 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and it was fun. Like I told you, I really like it there. So
Yeah.
I live in Portland now, and it sort of reminds me of that because of the weather and just a lot of green. A lot of green.
Oh wow, beautiful. But yeah, I think it's about time you come over. We need to get some more casts of Phenomenal on Elm Street for sure.
I know. I want to come there. I'm still trying to tell my agent to like get me back to the UK. Yeah.
I'd love to quickly talk to you again a bit more about your music,
Okay.
and about your inspirations for your music and for your driving force to pursue music. I know obviously your father's very big into music, but sort of outside of that, what's your big in like love for music, and who kind of else inspires you in music?
Well, I mean, everybody knows the Beatles inspire me.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, what, I don't have to say it. There's just, nobody else like that. And I like a lot of the 60s music. So I really like the Bangles and stuff like that. I like Sheryl Crow a lot. I think she's like
That's
just
awesome.
incredible. And when I play live, I play guitar, and you know, it's kind of you know, I kind of like look at her and sort of think, wow, she's cool, and she's my age, and and I don't know, I feel very I met her once, and I told her, I said, you're like the female Lennon. And she was like, oh my God, I have never heard a compliment like that. That is the best compliment I've ever heard. Because she's a really huge Beatle fan. You can tell in her music. I mean, it's so much is reminiscent of
Mhm.
their stuff, you know, in
Yeah.
her own way. But like
Yeah,
I
of
can tell
course.
like background vocals and notes she plays, and just the way she puts songs together.
That's also from an artist perception, right? Like, I mean, from fans' perceptions, like myself, you can kind of hear some similarities, but I suppose for you, you can kind of get a bit more in depth as to understanding what those similarities are and what inspirations they have. That's really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So I'm listening mostly to like, the Beatles and the Zombies, and like, all the ones that were big in the 60s and some in the 70s too. But you know what? I love 80s music too. That's another thing. So I guess I'm kind of fickle, but I think I like the 60s the best.
Yeah, absolutely. For you, what's your inspiration for some of the albums that you've released?
Oh goodness. Well, I mean, most of my songs are all about real things. So, everything in my life inspires me to write. If I'm, uh, down and in a sobbing mood about something, I write. If I'm really elated about something, I write. It's always coming from, you know, uh, it's coming from the heart. It's never like a formula. You know what I mean? Where I just say,
Yeah.
I'm going to write a song and it should be about that and I should do that. It just kind of comes out the way it comes out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love
I
talking to
actually,
people
I
about
actually
music.
wrote I'm sorry, I was going to say, I
Oh,
also wrote a song. It's called Violin. It's actually about my experience with John Lennon. You should get that off of iTunes or something and listen to it.
yeah, absolutely. No, I love speaking to people about music. I always find I love talking to people about movies and acting, but I think because music's so much more personal, I
Oh
love
yeah.
I just love hearing like I don't know, you get this kind of inspiration, like feeling. I don't know if it's just me, but I love talking to people about music and what inspires them to write.
Right. Yeah, I mean, music is just, I think when you're performing, you're alone, you're in your own world, it's magical, you have no one else. Acting is completely different because
Yeah.
you have to be so aware of the other person. You're talking to the other person, you have to be truthful, you have to know what you're saying, what the scene's about, what you want from the other person. In music you don't have to do any of that.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just your own little world.
Do you have any music sort of you're working on or anything coming out in the pipeline?
I just released a song called Crushed that's actually in the new movie that I'm doing. And that is also on iTunes. Yeah, we just put that up there. So yeah,
Awesome.
so you could hear that. I'm really proud of that one because it's sort of like a turn in a different direction, but
Mhm.
like more what I am now than what I was in the 80s. Because a lot of people know me from that. So you know, even though I love it, I still feel a bit different now. So it's a little bit different. You'll see.
Yeah. No, naturally. And I think that's a natural progression, right? I mean, as anyone kind of goes through a lot more of life and you have new experiences and new sort of things and thoughts, you're always gonna have
Hmm.
sort of have differences and changes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say that the first album that I did when they let me do what I wanted, I wrote with well, he actually was my boyfriend at the time. His name is Paul Warren. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he is a really amazing writer, producer, guitar player, like extraordinaire. He played with Tina Turner and Rod Stewart and Richard Marx and Joe Cocker. I mean, he's just amazing. And that first album that I wrote with him was all about my love for him. And it was just like the most honest writing I think I've ever done. Just the most vulnerable, because I was like 24, and I think I was just so gobsmacked by him that everything was like that, and he was the same way with me. So it was really cool, and I still listen to that one, and that one can really like me because it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh. If you had any advice for somebody that was to, let's say, to pursue a dream, whether it's acting or music, or
Hmm.
it could be anything in the world, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say that I feel like if it's in you, if it's in your heart and your soul, I think that you have to keep going no matter what. You don't ever give up. You just keep going because eventually you will get there. I believe that. And I think a lot of people who have said, yeah, well, I gave that up because it wasn't working out for me. I don't go for that really. I'm like, okay, then you weren't supposed to do that, you know? Because it's like in my life, I don't have a choice. I have no choice. That is what I do, and that's it, you know? Um, so I think that that's what I would say. If it's really in your soul and you can go, go, go and go to the end finish line, I think, you know, that's the way to do it. And the ones that don't really care, they should run away because
Um,
it's tough.
yeah. So one of the kind of the final things, and it doesn't have to, again, doesn't have to be music, doesn't have to be acting, it could just be anything in general. For yourself, who or what inspires you?
Well, goodness, so many people do inspire me. I this sounds kind of kooky, but I'm a really huge freak of dogs, animals. But it's just I am just madly in love with dogs. And it's something that inspires me. I don't know. I just feel stuff, and it's amazing. It sounds crazy, but it is really. I can go, to a daycare place where there's all these dogs and just go in there and then leave feeling like, wow, you know, I don't know. I don't know. It's just a really special thing, I think.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite breed of dog?
Oh God, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, actually it's three, but they're all the same sort of. Greyhounds, Whippets, and Italian greyhounds, little ones.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
they're
Do you
my
have any
favorite.
dogs?
I really want to save a greyhound from racing. That's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
do eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't, to be honest, I'm kind of quite surprised that in today's kind of like the way things are now in the world, that kind of dog racing is still a thing. Like, and it's
Yeah,
still
I
like a
know it's
very public thing.
yeah, it's disgusting. I hate it. It's not even it doesn't have to be done. I mean, so many animals get harmed from that.
Yeah,
Horses, I mean, die. I mean, and like, when the greyhounds run and they're 4 or 5, it's like they want to kill them. I mean, some of them kill them, and it's just heartbreaking to me. I can't stand that. I just,
yeah,
don't understand people sometimes, the cruelty that is in them to do that to an innocent creature like that. Just you know, I
yeah,
don't even know how, like, in the the pounds where they keep dogs, and they have to put them down and or asleep, and it's like I can't imagine anybody going to take a dog wagging their tail, thinking they're going somewhere, and taking him into a room and killing him. See, I can't. That I mean,
no,
things like that, they stay in my mind. I can't read stories about it. I do give money to several different organizations, but sometimes I have to tell them, please don't send me pictures. I can't
Yeah,
hack it. I can't. It stays with me, and I mean, I don't know. It just really saddens me.
yeah. But like you said though, for you, you definitely do your part in what you can do, and
Mhm.
hopefully I hope you're able to rescue a dog soon.
Yes, me too. I had three dogs. I now have two. I lost one like a year and a half ago, which
Oh,
was,
bless.
totally devastating. Totally devastating, like the worst day of my life.
Yeah,
Um, because I think that when you find them gone in your house, in their bed, it's just, oh my God.
yeah.
And it was horrible.
No, I mean I say we've only just got a dog. We've had a dog now for just over 2 years, and I've never had a dog before. And now
Oh,
now I get it. Like now I get why people go so crazy for their dogs because it's fully like having a baby.
yeah, it is. And it's also like having a friend, because I'll tell you, they're the
Yeah,
best friends, because they're totally unconditional. They don't lie, they don't cheat, they don't do
yeah,
anything to hurt you. The only thing that they do to hurt you is when they leave you.
yeah. And they can fully tell like if you're in need of comfort. Like when you're like feeling a bit bad, that's when you know like, oh, our dog, like if anyone has a bit of a bad day or we're having a bit stressed and we sit on the chair and we're kind of to ourselves, she'll always come up and jump and just sit with us all the time.
I know, that is so cool. I love that. What kind of dog do you have now?
So we have a short-haired border collie.
Oh, cute.
So yeah, her name's Lola,
What's her Lola? Cool name.
but she is. I've never seen anything in my life that has the energy that that dog has.
Oh, you know what? You should. Honestly, I had a whippet for about a year, and she was kind of a little bit crazy when she was little,
Mhm.
and a little aggressive towards my other chihuahuas. And she actually ended up. My chihuahua walked by her food, and she bit her, and it actually broke her jaw. So it was really terrible. And I had these chihuahuas for like 8 years. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I knew it was going to happen again if it did. So I had to give her away. And oh my God, I just like died. I died. I cried for like 4 weeks straight. And I just had this connection with this whippet.
Mm.
And it's funny because I found her an amazing home in Kentucky,
Mhm.
and they're so great, and they know how much I love her, and they let me go and visit her. I go to Kentucky like once a year or twice a year, and I pick her up and I take her for like 4 or 5 days.
Oh, that's
And
so cool.
it's just, oh my God, I'm in heaven. And now she's like trained, she's docile, she takes every order. She's just unbelievable. I can't believe it's the same dog. Actually, my mom can't either. She's like, oh my God, she's so sweet and laid back.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I couldn't keep her, but I'm happy for her and her life, because she has a great one. She lives like on a farmland. It's like unbelievable. But I'm not happy for me.
No, of course. But at least you get to spend time with her though, right?
Yeah. And I was so afraid she'd forget me, but every time I see her, her name is Fiona. And every time I go in there and I say her name, she just like goes berserk and like, runs into
Yeah.
me. And like, it's like she knows me. So I'm so happy she does.
Yeah. Like you said, maybe that was always kind of like, I mean, ultimately you found her the most perfect life that she could have, right? So I mean
Yeah.
that's always kind of good for your conscience as well. Like I mean,
Yeah.
luckily we've never had to give a dog away, but so I can imagine how painful it is. But I suppose there's always like a good way around it, right?
Yeah, it was the only thing I remember, and I don't like to remember, is the day they took her. Because
Yeah.
when she walked out with them, she was waiting for me to come out with her. And I was just like, oh, I was just sobbing. And they told me later, which they shouldn't have told me, but they said, yeah, she was upset. She was running from the window to the door and looking for you. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was feeling like I abandoned her.
Yeah.
But now I kind of see I really did the best thing for her, but
It.
mm,
It hurts, but it's good. It's just every good
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Um, I know. Obviously, we're running a bit low on time, so I won't keep you too much longer.
It's
Um,
okay.
I just want to quickly say, I noticed on your IMDb page, have to be one of the most active actors going at the moment. There are so many new projects. Is
Yeah.
there anything you could tell us about any of your new projects coming up, or anything to really
Um,
keep an eye out for?
yeah, I just did a movie called Last Culprit that'll probably be out next year. On Amazon, I have like three movies that are out, which is one is called The Rideshare Killer and The Bloody Man and The
Hmm.
Amityville Moon. So I have those three on Amazon right now that are new. And I'm doing the Dagger Dust project. And yeah, I mean, I have a couple more coming out. And honestly, there's one that I may be in. I don't know if I could talk about it, but it's a very public story, um, a true one. And
Uh-huh.
it's kind of about, well, I could say I don't care. It's kind of about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and
Hmm.
their thing,
Wow.
and it's a musical, so it's pretty funny. It's pretty wild. But hopefully that'll work out for me. And you know, it'll be cool. I think everyone will see it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Just
Yeah,
out of curiosity alone, people will watch it.
yeah. Just to know, I know,
Yeah.
it's wild.
So will you be posting any sort of news that comes up with any upcoming projects? Will you be posting them on your social medias?
I probably will on Instagram. I don't go on
Yeah.
Facebook too much.
Hmm.
But I do write stuff on Instagram. So I think, yeah, I'll put them on there. Yeah, I should have put these
Awesome.
on there. I'm terrible with social media. That's my problem. Is like I'm always like, nah, I don't,
No,
yeah, I
I
don't want to
know.
write on there, you know, because it's I don't know. It's funny to me, like when people say things like, "This is what I had for dinner," and they take a picture
Yeah,
of it. I'm just like,
100%.
why did they need to tell you that? Or why did they have to tell you that they're having a bad day? Or, I mean, that's okay, but it seems to me it's more of a professional thing. You know what I mean? And just tell people what you're doing and when it
Yeah.
is, and that kind of thing. And I don't really even do that, so I'm not good. I'm not
No,
good.
I'm 100% with you on that. To be honest, I only have Instagram just to kind of share interviews and share clips and things. But
Yeah.
even
Well,
that,
you have to do
sometimes,
that.
yeah, but sometimes it feels like a full-time job in itself, just trying to like maintain that. I don't know how you guys do it especially with the amount of projects you have coming up. I don't know how you'd even manage to do that.
I know it's crazy. I really should like have somebody do it for me.
Yeah,
I thought of
sure.
hiring somebody to do it for me, but I don't know. Then I just go right off the subject. I don't know why. It's like one ear, one in, one out. It's just I
Yeah.
don't.
No, for sure. Tuesday, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I've had such an amazing time talking to you.
You too. You're adorable.
Ah, thank you.
Of course. Yeah. Great questions. I had a really good time.